Hi. Today's video is about BP, hypertension. So almost nearly 30% Indians have BP, and compared to 1990s till today, there's almost more than 140% increase in the number of people having hypertension. Many people go undiagnosed because they won't check it regularly, especially in the rural areas and in the lower socioeconomic groups. And this is one of the silent killer which can cause many cardiac problems, strokes, and so on. So let's see why this BP is increasing, what we can do to prevent it. So, as I seen here, many people think that salt is the main cause of BP. Salt is the main cause of hypertension, and if they consume more salt, the chances of getting BP is high. So, actually, it is not true. See, if you take this historical perspective, ancient populations like hunters, gatherers, and all usually used to have seafoods which is more in salt and salted meats, and even the Mediterranean foods and Japanese foods, most of them are high in salt. And coming to the era before refrigerators arrived, before refrigerators have arrived, how people used to preserve the foods? They used to preserve the food through salting method only. They used to add a salt to preserve the food for longer time. So indirectly, they were consuming a lot of salt more than what we are doing today. And in addition, there are some tribes which they consume more salts, but still they don't have much higher incidence of hypertension. So, sitting all these studies, it is not only the salt which is causing the high cases of BP or hypertension. There is something else also. And there are some studies which say this is a pure study 2018, Cochrane study review 2011, and NHANES study 2014. These studies will make us see in suspicion salt alone is not the cause of BP or hypertension. So the actual cause is what? The actual cause is sugar. Salt is simply blamed for a BP, but the actual culprit is sugar. If you take from 1980-19 onwards, the consumption of sugars, processed foods, as increasing decade by decade. Almost compared to 500 years ago, we are consuming a sugar in a one day, which people lived below the 500 years used to consume in a month. So the more and more intake of sugar and processed foods is the main cause of hypertension. You can ask me how. See, the increased intake of sugar lead to insulin resistance. This insulin resistance retain the salt in the kidneys. And when the salt is retained in the kidneys, that causes hypertension. So, to summarize, high sugar and high processed foods, insulin resistance, which cause sodium retention in the kidneys and which in turn cause of hypertension. As we see, there is number of people with overweight is increasing, number of people with the diabetes is increasing. The cause of both is same, insulin resistance, and similarly the same insulin resistance is causing high incidence of BP. To collaborate, in our clinic we run some diabetic remission program for many people who have borderline diabetes or young people with the diabetes, for the diabetic remission and reversal. For them, we advise them to cut down all the sugars, processed foods, and low carb diet. And surprisingly, as the sugars come down, as the insulin resistance come down, most of them BP also come down. There are many instances that I have reduced the BP medication dosages, and in some cases I have completely stopped the BP medications. So salt is not the main cause of the hypertension. It is the sugar which is the main culprit for hypertension. Sugar this doesn't mean only white sugar. Sugar is a broad term which includes white sugar, all the white flours, and all white rice, wheat flour, rava, maida, sugars, all this collectively included as sugars. Even the excess fruits, sodas, cool drinks, all this together included in term called sugar. Increased incidence of this is the main cause of hypertension. So coming to what we can do to prevent the BP. See, BP is multifactorial. Unlike we can reverse type 2 diabetes with a low carb diet and lifestyle, it is not so straightforward. But in majority of the cases, if you follow these preventive measures, people with a borderline BP can be reversible, and it also prevent people from getting into hypertension bracket. So what could always eat whole foods. So whole foods matlab avoid all the refined and processed foods. Because we nowadays when we go outside we eat a lot of processed foods, and all the processed foods come with a high salt and sugar only. So avoid all the ultra processed foods. Try to eat whole foods or homemade whole foods. Second thing, many are not aware. Now globally almost 50% population are deficient in magnesium. A deficiency of a magnesium and also potassium is also one of the main reason for BP or hypertension. So what I suggest you is take a magnesium supplement regularly, or take foods rich in magnesium like pumpkins, cashews, so which will decrease your incidence of getting into hypertension. Third is reduce refined carbohydrates because which cause insulin resistance. Increase the intake of protein and fats. As Indians, especially vegetarians, are very deficient in protein intake. So increase the protein as per the body weight and eat healthy fats. Eat healthy fats like avocado, nuts, seeds, paneer, naturally available healthy fats, which is again a preventive for a BP. And exercise regularly, sleep well. If you don't sleep well, the chance of getting BP is high. And manage your stress. Stress, people with a chronic stress also have some kind of a sodium wasting and all. So altogether, these are the preventive methods. So salt is not the main culprit; it is the sugar. So normally, the recommended salt intake by WHO is 5 gram per day. But in a book called Salt Fix by a cardiovascular scientist James Nicolantino, he gave a hypothesis that salt is not the main criteria, and in fact, people who consume less salt can have more problems. For example, in summers, you keep drinking always a plain water. If you keep drinking more plain water, it dehydrates you, and some people can also get linked to low sodiums. Having a low salt diet stimulate the increase of renin, aldosterone, and in fact it causes hypertension. Other way around. So he argues that WHO recommendation of 5 gram per day is not adequate. The salt intake depends on individual's activity. For example, if somebody is a sports people, somebody is a physical laborer working outside in the sun, who sweats a lot, need more salt. They can take up to 10 to 12 grams salt per day. And people who are living in a air conditioned environment, sedentary, and people with some medical problems may not need much salt. So depending on their activity, they can take salt even more than 5 gram per day also. And overall, salt as our evolution wise, our kidneys can handle excess salt efficiently, but our body and the kidneys cannot handle excess sugar. So remember this, salt is not the main culprit. Have a good pink salt which is rich in minerals, and you can have a salt depending on your activity levels, and at any cost cut down your sugars and refined foods and processed foods to prevent the occurrence of hypertension. That's all.